Hello and welcome again. I'm Jo Gakonga and this is another training video for elttraining.com, and today we're going to look at a few tips for presenting language, but particularly for presenting grammar. Now, this is often a part of teaching that people find very challenging, and there's no magic solution, I'm afraid, but hopefully these thoughts will help a little bit. So the first thing is really how not to do it. Putting up some decontextualised sentences and telling them that we're going to learn the present continuous today is not going to engage people's interests usually. Language is best taught from a context. It's easier to understand it that way, and it's much more engaging that way. So the context might be a reading, or it might be a listening, or it might just be a situation. You could, for example, just give them a picture like this and ask them to imagine what's happening. For example, here, who's in the room and what are they doing? And hopefully then they'll give you some ideas, and this will contextualise the language. These aren't particularly interesting, but if you give them other pictures of different windows, then you might get more interesting results as well. I think it's a really good idea to think of learning language, a piece of language, a structure, on a continuum, from knowing nothing to knowing everything. So on that journey, you're going to start somewhere at the point where their knowledge already is, and you're going to try and work in one lesson towards a point that's a bit further along that journey. Now, if you assume that they know nothing, or if you try and tell them everything in one lesson, then this is what's going to happen. You're going to be at the board talking a lot, and they're probably going to go to sleep. So it's really important to think of where they're starting from, and that's important. And how will you know that? Well, you'll listen to them in previous lessons and you'll ascertain what they already know about this, what they can already do about this, and what they can't. And you also need to think, and this is really important, about what's realistic to do in a short amount of time that is one lesson. You can't do everything, just aim to do a realistic amount. The other thing that's important, of course, is to make sure you really know what you're talking about. So you need to have made that journey right to the end, just in case they ask you a question a bit further up. Doesn't mean you need to tell them everything in that one lesson. So another thing to think about is that being asked something is much more engaging than being told it. So try to elicit information from them as much as you can. However, what you don't want to do is play a sort of a guess what's on my mind game and keep on asking them questions even after you're fairly sure that nobody knows. If they don't know, tell them. That's your job. You're a teacher. But if they do know or somebody knows, then it's nice to try and get it from the learners. Finally, something that's really important to keep in mind is that all practical skills need practice, and language is a practical skill. So it's always a good idea to keep your presentation concise and plan for some active practice. If you find your presentation is getting longer and longer, then it's really okay to split it into two pieces and have a bit of practice in the middle before you go on. That can be a really good way of making sure the learners are active and engaged. I hope that some of those tips have been helpful to you and that your grammar teaching is very successful. Good luck with it and see you next time. Bye-bye.